Yo, what's up everybody? Today I wanted to be talking about trying to emulate the sound of the classic 303 acid bassline. It's only been actually kind of recently that I've really been getting into that sound. I've been hearing it all my life. I even bought the this guy, and I've been slightly obsessing over the sound of the classic acid bassline. So I wanted to be talking about how you can do that with pretty much any basic synth. I will be comparing the sound to the what I've been finding the best emulation to my needs. It's the Fanu by D16 Group, and I do admit that I'm not. I think I just said I've been obsessing, but I cannot say that I've ever used the classic 303. I'm not the guy who can pinpoint every single fact about the sound, but I like the sound, and I've been trying a few different synths in my quest to trying to emulate the sound. So let's talk about that today. So So this is the sound. I know you've heard it. So I quickly did something with analog of Ableton Live. And there's a lot of factors that actually go into this sound, and like I said, I will not try to make it exactly like my comparison, but I will be talking about what it takes and what are the factors that have a big effect on the sound. So once more, this is the yeah, let me actually just I always do this. I map keys to these mute buttons of these tracks, so I can do this. I'm using my computer keyboard, so I'm taking, these are the notes that I played, so I'll just copy the clip to this is the what I did just before this video. In my last video I said I like to sometimes like to do a sound, and then when I'm kind of happy with it, try and also redo that. So this is the Faustian, and this is the one that I did earlier, and now I want to redo it once more. So there's a few factors at play here. So this sounds nothing like the 303. So a few considerations: it has to be a mono, and there's a little bit of glide happening with the 303. Let's fine tune this later. And a lot of the sound actually comes down to the filter and the envelope, because if you listen to any 303, whoops, there is a filter movement happening. So the filter opens and the resonance largely creates the sound, and it's also the steepness, is that a word? I guess it is, like the intensity of the filter, that also plays a big role. So let's try, I'll play it and I tweak the filter down. It's starting to sound like it, right? So one big thing here, like I said, is the filter. You want to make it fairly closed. Let's check out without resonance. And it's a one oscillator synth. And the resonance and the envelope play a big role in how the overall tone becomes. And obviously you do have this, every 303 has this selection between a sawtooth and this square wave. I'll mostly be messing with the sawtooth. So I feel I'm already kind of close. So what would be nice here is, let's do this. Let's get these macros. And by the way, if you don't know how to do this, is whoops. So you group this, and grouping gives you this macro. So a few parameters that you would like to map to these macros are the amount of filter envelope, or how much the filter envelope actually affects the filter. So I could map this to macro 4, and frequency could go to macro 7, and also resonance is something you want to be trying out. Using an actual hardware 303 is nice because you have the knobs, so I kind of want to emulate this. So there. And one thing also is the time of the envelope. And by the way, I'd point out that you can mess with these parameters even with the actual original 303. So there is not one sound that I want to compare to. So even getting there is actually kind of nice. The intensity of the filter, this is something that you actually cannot map, but let me change this as the sound is playing. So it becomes more aggressive around the cutoff point. So depending on how you want it to sound, this might be a consideration. Also in Ableton Analog, when you click on this filter tab, you get this drive, and by default it's set to this sim 1, so it's kind of worth it clicking on this. And what I often do is use my computer arrow keys to switch between these filters as the sound is playing. Because you get a lot of vibe out of these guys. Let me quickly try and touch the filter envelope parameters, because I've set the intensity to 4, which I think is a nice starting place, but to understand what it's doing. So the filter opens really quickly. Like I said, I closed the filter, not fully closed, but I made the low pass fairly low. So the filter opens like this, and then it comes down. And I think I found a graphic bug, and this is how much the envelope affects the filter. Because if I made this 0, now there is literally no movement on the filter. The filter stays at this value, but when I raise the intensity, it starts to open it more. Let's try this. So you're gonna find the sweet spot where you hear especially with high resonance, the filter opens and it kind of stays at a nice place. Especially in acid house, it's often that the bass line, the 303, kind of gets more intense in some parts as the song goes forward. So this would be one factor, and also the cutoff and resonance. I think this is mostly all you need. So if you go too high with the filter, it just kind of doesn't do anything. And obviously you could switch to square wave, but it doesn't necessarily sound right when you flick it to it. So you would have to, my point is, when you make it sound fairly okay like this, when you switch it to square wave, it doesn't sound right. Whereas with Faucion, And even the Behringer 303 that I have, obviously it sounds right. So with the DAW, it'll be a little different. So, and depending, for example, with analog synth of Ableton Live, I know what the reason is, and the pulse width is wrong, because now you cannot actually see it, but the pulse width isn't wide enough. It's too thin. Let me make it even more wrong. Now the pulse is really wide, so it does sound better comparing. So now once again you might tweak the this filter parameters and see what you can affect here. And I guess one consideration is how long the note is. You could make it really short if you wanted to. So what I'm doing here is I'm clicking on this amp tab, which gives me the amplitude envelope. So if you want to make it really short and snappy, well, that's kind of... But you probably don't want to make it super long either. Whoops. At this point, I'm probably boring you. So a recap of what you're going to need. Sawtooth or square wave, but the square wave has to be wide, because like my initial starting point sounded way wrong, and you're going to be feeling like, what? Why is it wrong? So filter with a lot of resonance, and envelope control is a big thing here, like how it opens and or especially where it ends when the filter envelope comes back down. So that's one thing. Intensity of the envelope, like I mapped these controls here. Also, it has to be mono, and glide, actually, yeah, glide, because I did have, let's do this overlap thing. Glide cannot be too long because it sounds wrong. Let me copy these notes over to Fanu. Yeah, I could do this for days. There's something highly enjoyable about this. So anyways, you know now the basics of how you do acid style bassline. Have fun. Let me actually know how it goes, and do try other synths. I might actually do another video using any other synth and touching these parameters, because honestly this is fun to me. So let me know in the comments how it goes. Till the next time.